Let me tell you a story of a Chinese immigrant who was born in poverty, mopped floors to pay for school, then became a Filipino billionaire. Yes, that's with a B. He started with a tobacco company, then owned an airline, bank, real estate development, and many more companies under his belt. If you think of John Gokongwei, nope. In fact, John was the reason this guy was laid off in his chemical engineer job before he started his own company. I will reveal in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the story of Lucio, the janitor who became a tycoon. Lucio was born in Fujian, China in 1934. His family migrated to the Philippines when he was still a skinny young boy. They were not rich. In fact, they struggled on a daily basis, not knowing when they will have their next meal. Lucio beginning is similar to the stories of Henry C. and Mariano Cue. They didn't start with money or network of friends. The only capital to survive was hard work. Growing up, Lucio earned hardship early. His father tried different odd businesses to support the family, but money was always short. So Lucio often had to help in small ways just to keep the family afloat. Despite the situation, the family knew the importance of education. So Lucio was still able to attend schools all the way to college. As a college student, he studied chemistry at Far Eastern University in Manila. But unlike many classmates who could focus on their lessons and classes, Lucio had to juggle survival and education. Tuition, rent, meals, anything that cost money was a problem. So he worked. He mopped floors as a janitor in a tobacco factory. He also labored in construction, carrying lumber and mixing cement. Sometimes, he did carpentry jobs. His classmates saw him arrive tired, smelling of sweat and chemicals, but still pushing himself to study. Every peso mattered. Every day was a challenge. This wasn't the life of a future tycoon. He was a simple young man refusing to give up. That janitorial job in the tobacco factory turned out to be the turning point in his life. Lucio paid attention. He watched how tobacco leaves were processed, how workers handled the curing, how cigarettes were rolled up and packed. He noticed mistakes, inefficiency, and some time consuming patterns. He wasn't just cleaning floors, he was learning the trade. That gave him deeper knowledge on blending and processing tobacco, knowledge that would eventually become the foundation of his empire. Few years have gone by, and he earned a degree in chemical engineering from FEU. His first employment was in a cornstarch factory. He worked as a chemist's assistant. However, like I said earlier, he was laid off from this company because John Gokongwei engaged in price war on cornstarch, forcing this factory to shut down. See the full story of Gokong Wei in the link I put in the description. Now let's go back to the story. Now that he is free from the shackles of 9 to 5 job, plus equipped with knowledge on cigarette making, Lucio was on to something bigger. He was determined to succeed. We often hear the phrase, opportunity looks a lot like hard work. For Lucio, this couldn't be truer. While others saw long hours and tough labor, he saw stepping stones. Scrubbing floors as a janitor wasn't just a job, it was a discipline. Rolling tobacco wasn't just tiring work, it was experience. To most people, those struggles looked like hardship, but to Lucio, they were hidden opportunities disguised as sweat and sacrifice. With the mid 1960s, Lucio decided to take a risk. With borrowed money and small savings, he launched Fortune Tobacco in 1966. The factory is in Marikina and still exists to this day. At first, it was a small, struggling operation. Giant competitors like Philip Morris, Marlboro, and La Suerte were already huge players. But Lucio knew the market. He knew Filipinos wanted a cheap but quality cigarette. So he launched brands like Hope, Winston, and Champion and sold them cheaper than the imported brands. Slowly but surely, smokers shifted. Fortune Tobacco captured the masses because of the low price. His market share grew slowly at first since he was a nobody. Then, as he remains in the game for many years, his company eventually gained momentum. Seeing that he was a force to be reckoned with, Philip Morris entered a joint venture with Fortune Tobacco. With this merger, That small startup company was now taking shape into the foundation of his empire. In 1982, he established Asia Brewery to challenge San Miguel's dominance in beer and beverages. People laugh at the idea. How could anyone compete with San Miguel? It's the beer of the nation. But Lucio launched products like Beer na Beer, Cobra Energy Drink, and later bottled water brands like Summit. Then came Tanduay Distillery, which under his control became one of the biggest rum producers in the world. It's so big that it overtook Bacardi as the number one spot in the world in terms of sales in 2017, a record Tanduay still holds to this day. He also expanded into banking, acquiring Allied Bank and then later merging it into the giant Philippine National Bank or PNB. And perhaps most famously, he took control of Philippine Airlines or PAL in 1990s. This is the Philippine flagship airline and the oldest airline in Asia, which is debatable. If you Google it, they say it's Air India is the oldest, but you be the judge. To janitor, to chemist, to tobacco baron, to airline owner, the scale of his empire was something unimaginable for the boy who once struggled to afford his school expenses. Of course, no empire is built without challenges. Lucius' career had been filled with controversies. He faced tax evasion cases worth billions. His closeness with political figures, especially with Ferdinand Marcos during martial law, was constantly questioned. Critics accused him of monopolistic practices. Headlines painted him as one of the richest yet most mysterious taipans of the Philippines. But through it all, he endured. Court battles dragged on for decades, yet his companies remained profitable. While other businessmen folded during political storms, Lucio adapted, kept quiet, and kept working. In interviews, he often downplayed the noise. For him, business was about persistence, not popularity. What made him successful wasn't just timing, it was his style. He lived frugally, often described as simple in habits. Despite his billions, he preferred plain white shirt, ate modest meals, and avoided the spotlight. His focus was always on reinvesting profits back into his businesses. His employees described him as disciplined, detailed oriented, and extremely hardworking. He expected the same from those around him. He wasn't flashy, but he was relentless. In many ways, he represented the classic immigrant dream: work hard, stay disciplined, seize opportunities. Later in his life, he funded scholarships, built schools, and donated to universities. He supported research in chemistry and agriculture. Through the Tanyanki Foundation, he provided programs in education, environment, and healthcare. He wanted others to have the chance he never fully had. From a poor immigrant boy mopping floors to the man who would own an airline, a bank, breweries, distilleries, and schools, Lucio Tan's story is not just about wealth. It is about grit, discipline, and the quiet power of persistence. And that's the story of Lucio Tan. Thanks for watching and see you in the next story.